Okay, so in this video, we're going to spend time rebuilding the map function. In our previous video, we did implement the forEach entirely right here. So I'm gonna get rid of this one, and then we're going to start working on the map function. So once again, the idea here is to show you how this thing works under the hood. And by doing so, you get to know how to use these tools. It just makes you a better developer overall, right? So the premise here is we have a list of users and we have a question that is simply to return the one that has an X in their name. We're going to make sure that the map function, which should return us a result, and that result here should basically have that value right there, right? So you see map isn't implemented. So let's go ahead and make sure that we start implementing right here. So we're just gonna call it map. And what we're going to do is to pass it the argument. So we're just gonna receive a collection of things. I like to start with unknown, and then as I get to know better what I need to do right there, I narrow down to exactly where to go. Unknown is better than any. Yeah, guess what? I'm working on a course that basically covers these things. This course is gonna be completely free. It's gonna be here on YouTube. Just subscribe and you will get it whenever it's ready. And it's gonna be ready really soon. We're moving fast right there. So have the function map. It takes a collection and then it takes a callback, just like we had before with the forEach function. And that callback here, I'm just gonna start again with the fact that it's just a function, but that function is a bit special, and we're gonna come back to it by the end of this implementation. So what does map do? When you compare map and forEach doesn't return anything, nothing at all. And map actually return an array of the same size of the same size as the collection that is being passed here, right? In simple term, if collection has 2 items, map will return something that also has 2 items, right? It will return that thing, right? So let's actually implement that. So it means that we still need to loop. We still need to loop through the collection. And then what we're going to do, instead of just having the collection.index right here, what we're going to do is to call the callback and actually pass that the element right there. So one thing we did in the forEach, and that basically works the same here with the map function, is the fact that the callback actually takes more than one argument. It takes the item in the collection, the position, so the index of that item in the array, and it takes the collection itself, right? It takes the entire collection itself right there. Okay, so that we're going to see it later when we replace that function with the right type. Okay, so now what's next here? Once we have that, as we heard that whatever is returned from the callback, right? It's gonna give us some result right there, and that thing there we're gonna put it inside an array, and it's that array that we're going to return. So we're gonna need here like an array here, and then we make sure that we return that array like this, right? And now what we need to do in between, so if you see here on line 12, you can see that that array is empty, right? So we receive an empty array right there, but what we just need to do from that point on is basically say, inside that array, we're going to push the element, right? By doing so, as you can see right here, we have now 3 elements that says undefined, 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 which means that this is working. It means that this is working. The thing that is not working is the fact that we didn't pass the callback here. We didn't say what that callback does. And same thing, if we go here and then we say return 1, we're gonna see that it's all 1 right now. So we just have to go ahead and implement the logic that we need to actually answer this question, which is give me the user that has an X in their name, right? So and the way we're going to do that is just to say if user.name includes, as you can see once again, we don't have the help of the IDE because things are not well typed, and that is the JavaScript world. TypeScript will make this thing much better, and that's why in a few minutes I'm going to explain to you how you can type this string really, really well. And if you want to actually try it, there is a gem, there is a link in the description to try it yourself and actually understand how this thing works under the hood right there. So what do we do with the map? What we do right here is basically say like, hey, if it includes the thing, we're just gonna return that. In this case, if we return that user, we're going to see that it shows up right there, because the other way here is there is undefined that is being returned. Yes, that is undefined. Even if you don't put it, it is being returned. I'm putting it right here because map was not the right tool to actually answer this question. If you want to watch it, there is part 1 of this entire series where I explain how we did this implementation, and we saw that map wasn't doing the job, and then the way we end up solving that is to take that result and then call a filter on it and basically remove everything that was not working really well, that everything that was not fitting the thing. And then once we had that, we had to call just take the one at position 0, and then we had the result. But that is basically going down the rabbit hole and try to containing stuff and then having the element that we're looking for. Map was not the right thing right there, but the focus of this video is to re-implement it from scratch so we understand how it works underneath, right? So that works. Everything is actually working right here. I can remove that part right here. I can remove this, and we don't really need that. And once again, I said the index and the collection are being passed right there, but we're not making use of them in this video. So like in most cases, people actually don't make use of these things, right? So this is really, really cool. Now let's go back here and finish this by explaining a little bit this idea of function. So just like in the previous video, and I invite you to watch it and do the exercise yourself so you get to understand how this thing works underneath. What we did here, we create what I call an interface for that callback. So I'm gonna call that the map callback. Okay, so this map callback is just an interface that we're gonna call map callback, and once again it just takes a function, and in this case that function returns something, right? It returns something. It returns something of a certain type, right? So I cannot just say void here, because if I do void right here, that thing there will just be like, hey, I'm an element and I'm void. That's not what happened because we're pushing something right there. Okay, so let's do that. Let's fix that. So the way we're going to do that is to start by providing this generic. Let's give it right there, and then I'm gonna make sure that that thing is being returned. However, that is not completely correct. You're going to see that in a few seconds, but I'm going to start with that so that this thing isn't complaining anymore. And then the collection right there, it takes 3 arguments. So we have the collection, which is, we have the item, type T. We have the index, which is a number. And then we have the collection itself, which is something of type T, and that's basically it. So with that said, we then need to bring this here. I'm gonna put it right there, and then once we have that, we just need to put it like this. Okay, so once we've done that, we realize that, hey, now we know that that thing is not unknown. That thing is something T, right there. Okay, so that's basically the type. So what I just said in this implementation of the interface is the idea of like the type you give right there, the type of that collection will be the type that comes out of it. That is not true. That's completely not true. And I'll show you that in a few seconds. So just to make it work here, you see that red line? The red one is basically saying, hey, you're giving me one argument while I'm asking for 3. And that is correct. It's because here the callback takes 3 arguments, but actually the second one is not. The second and third one are not mandatory, right? So just by putting that question mark there, you get the result that you expect. Okay. And now, just to finish on the last point, which is the return type here doesn't have to be of the same type as the collection itself. So the way you can enforce that, you can just say, okay, that thing is going to be a U here, and I'm just gonna go here and say, hey, that's gonna be something different, right? You could literally say that, and now it's complaining that, hey, you didn't give me a second argument right there. And once I do that, that's basically fixed, which means that in my implementation here, when I use it over there, I could enforce it, right? I could enforce it and say, okay, what is a user? User is that. So what is I'm just going to create type. User is type of user 0. Right. So if we look at it, which is just going to say that, hey, that thing it's a user right there. So what I could do is to say, I'm going to have something that is of type of user like this. And then once I do that, I will need to give it like a second argument, let's say unknown. And then you see, like, I get exactly what I need, like 2. You can pass these 2 arguments this way, but you could also just say like, hey, they're the same, and that should also be fine, right? So that's basically when T and U are exactly the same. So that's a lot of information. That's a lot of code right there. Let me quickly recap what we did right here. So what we did is we did re-implement the function map. And the promise here was the fact that map takes a collection and then a callback. And then our implementation did the most obvious stuff. We loop through a list of elements, and then we store each element. After calling it, we store it and we put it inside an array, and then we return that array because map does return something, and it returns something of the same shape of the thing that was passed here as the first argument. And that implementation there is working. And then from there, we went on and make sure that things are well typed. And that's where we went into the rabbit hole of generics and so on and so forth, understanding that you can pass as many generics as you want right there, as long as it fits your software design. And that's basically it. And I know that that's a lot of information. The best way for you to understand it, to master it, is to try it. There is a gem attached to this thing. Go ahead, do it. Try it. I'm not kidding. You will get better. Yeah, that's my promise there. If you try it yourself, you just get better. I see you on the next video. You take care. Cheers.